Have you ever thought about death? Death, perhaps no other concept, has haunted humanity for as long. It is the one certainty that every living being will face, yet it remains one of the most feared and misunderstood aspects of life. In a world consumed with chasing dreams, achieving goals, and trying to extend life, how often do we stop to ponder the inevitable? Have you ever truly thought about death? Some might shy away from even considering it, while others spend entire lifetimes trying to understand or even master it. But whether we avoid it or dwell on it, death is an essential counterpart to life. It is the final act in the great play of existence. But could there be more to it than we've been led to believe? What hidden truths lie between the boundaries of life and death? Let's unravel some of the profound mysteries that link our mortal existence with the unknown. The uncomfortable relationship between life and death. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to view death as the antithesis of life, something to be avoided, feared, and fought against at all costs. But what if we approach death not as an enemy, but as an integral part of the life cycle? Would this change how we live our lives? For centuries, various cultures, philosophies, and religions have given different meanings to death. In many Eastern philosophies, like Buddhism and Hinduism, death is seen as merely a transition, a gateway to reincarnation or enlightenment. On the other hand, many Western cultures tend to treat death with finality, a dreaded end to the joys of existence. This dichotomy between Eastern and Western views of death highlights a fascinating tension in the way humans perceive mortality. While we may think of death as the ultimate full stop, it may be more apt to consider it a comma in the endless sentence of existence. This idea isn't new. Great thinkers like Socrates believed death was not something to fear. In fact, he famously said, "To fear death, my friends, is only to think ourselves wise without being wise, for it is to think that we know what we do not know." Socrates suggested that death might be the ultimate release from suffering, an entrance into a higher state of being or knowledge. But despite his words, we continue to live with a pervasive fear of the unknown. Why? Fear of the unknown. Why we fear death. The idea of death often strikes fear into the hearts of many because it's wrapped in mystery. It represents a leap into the unknown, and human beings are naturally wired to fear uncertainty. Life, with all its pain and suffering, still feels safer than the void we imagine death to be. What happens after we close our eyes for the last time? Do we dissolve into nothingness? Or is there something more? Some scientists propose that our fear of death might be linked to survival mechanisms encoded in our biology. After all, self-preservation is at the core of most living organisms. When faced with imminent danger, our brains react to safeguard our lives. Yet, the more we try to delay or deny death, the more we may be avoiding the opportunity to deeply contemplate it. There's also the psychological aspect. Many people derive their sense of identity from life itself, from the things they do, the people they love, and the experiences they have. The idea that all of this will one day cease to exist can trigger existential dread. But is there another way to view it? Hidden connections between life and death. One of the most fascinating things about death is how it shapes our lives, often without us realizing it. Our awareness of mortality often drives our decisions, values, and behaviors. Consider how many life-altering decisions are made with death in mind, from starting a family, traveling the world, or leaving a legacy through art or business. The pursuit of greatness is, in many ways, a defiance of death. We want to leave something behind that outlasts us. More than that, Death and life are deeply interconnected in the natural world. Look at a forest, for example. Trees and plants live, grow, and eventually die. But from the decay of fallen trees and leaves springs new life. An intricate cycle of regeneration. Without death, life as we know it would cease to exist. In the human experience, it's often after brushes with death, whether our own or someone close to us, that people begin to live with greater intention. Facing mortality can strip away the trivial concerns of everyday life, bringing clarity to what truly matters. Near-death experiences, a glimpse beyond. Another layer of the mystery of death comes from the numerous accounts of near-death experiences, NDS. These are experiences reported by people who have been clinically dead or close to death, but then revived. Many describe visions of light, out-of-body experiences, feelings of peace, or even seeing deceased loved ones. Though often dismissed by skeptics as the brain's response to trauma, the commonalities in these reports across different cultures and time periods raise intriguing questions. Could NDS offer a glimpse of what lies beyond the physical world? Or do they merely reflect the brain's final desperate attempt to make sense of its own shutdown? Scientists are still grappling with the exact causes of NDS, but the phenomenon invites us to reconsider our rigid views of death. It suggests that perhaps, just perhaps, death isn't the absolute end we've come to believe it is. Spiritual and religious views of death. Many religions teach that death is not an end, but a transformation. In Christianity, for example, death is seen as the entrance to eternal life with God. Similarly, in Hinduism and Buddhism, death is viewed as part of the cycle of rebirth. Our soul is reborn in a new form based on the karma accumulated in previous lives. In these belief systems, death is not something to be feared, but a step toward higher spiritual evolution. For some, death is the ultimate test of faith. If there is indeed an afterlife, what kind of life are we preparing for now? Does living with death in mind bring us closer to truth, compassion, and love, or does it lead to despair and hopelessness? Ultimately, how we view death shapes our spiritual lives, our ethical decisions, and the way we approach relationships. After all, if death were not part of the equation, would we still hold our loved ones so dear? Would we strive for meaning? Embracing mortality, living fully by acknowledging death. It might seem counterintuitive, but thinking about death can actually enhance the way we live. When we acknowledge our mortality, we're forced to confront what's truly important. What do we want to accomplish before we die? Who do we want to become? Some people find great comfort in what's known as death meditation, a practice in which they meditate on their own inevitable death as a way to cultivate mindfulness, gratitude, and awareness. This form of meditation encourages people to recognize the transient nature of life, helping them to live with greater intention and to appreciate each moment for what it is, a fleeting, precious gift. When we embrace mortality, we also learn to let go of the things that don't serve us. Petty worries, materialistic goals, and shallow relationships often fall away when we recognize the limited nature of time. Suddenly, we become more attuned to the beauty of the present moment. We realize that life itself is a miracle. Each breath, each sunrise, each moment with a loved one is something we'll never get back once it's gone. Legacy. What do we leave behind? The desire to be remembered, to leave a mark on the world, is a powerful motivator for many. Throughout history, people have sought immortality through their achievements, whether it's creating art, writing books, raising families, or building empires. But what is it that we truly leave behind? Is it our material wealth or the way we make others feel? Is it the love we share, the wisdom we impart, or the lives we touch? When all is said and done, it's likely that our legacies will not be defined by our possessions, but by the impact we have on others. Thinking about death reminds us that we're all interconnected. None of us exists in isolation, and the ripple effects of our lives, our kindness, our actions, our choices can continue long after we're gone. The gift of mortality. Perhaps the greatest hidden truth about death is that it gives life its value. If life were infinite, we might take it for granted. But because we know that time is limited, every moment becomes more meaningful. Every smile, every laugh, every tear, every struggle, each experience is precious, because it will one day come to an end. We are born, we live, and we die. This is the universal human experience. But within this cycle lies an incredible opportunity, the chance to live fully, to love deeply, to create something lasting, and to leave the world a little better than we found it. So, have you ever thought about death? Maybe it's time to do so. Not with fear, but with curiosity, reverence, and awe. For in pondering death, we may just discover the true meaning of life. Follow for more.